All right, it's time for the Daily Debate brought to you by George and Goes. Here we go. Today's question is, what do you think of Conor McGregor's round-by-round breakdown of his loss versus Khabib Nurmagomedov at UFC 229? Two choices goes, fair assessment or full of excuses.
There's not one in between?
No.
That's my problem, is I wish there was one in between, because I feel like 95% of that was a fair assessment. However, he did kind of leave himself an out. And this day and age, I mean, who doesn't do this? My only critique for him is he did like to he gave a fair assessment of what he calls the sporting event side, and then an assessment of what would have happened in an actual fight. And I think that's difficult to do, especially when there's a referee in the cage and there's rounds. You know, if this were a real fight, well, then maybe the horn doesn't blow and we don't grab Khabib and take him off of you.
Off of him in round 2.
Yeah, so
we never make it to round 3, the one he won.
You can't really play that game too much. So I think that was maybe a little bit of an excuse, but for the most part, I think it was a very fair assessment, and I applaud him for going out and doing that, because he didn't have to.
Yeah, no, I think he was more on the excuses than the fair assessment. He is wise in his usage of the words, you know, fair play, the better man won, he beat me. He's clear about that. But just leave it at that is what I'm saying. Because the excuses doesn't make, in my eyes, and I think most people's minds, that we're not going to forget that was kind of an ass-kicking. There was a 10-8 in there. There was a finish. That right there is a recipe for what you would call an ass-kicking. So leave those out. I like the way he addressed his loss versus Nate Diaz, the first fight, by coming out, sitting there at the dais back when they had, you know, all the fighters, not just individual post-fight press conferences. And I remember him saying, win or learn. I have to manage my energy better. You know, he said some truths, and he kept it brief. Nate, it was his night, and you could tell he was steaming. But once Conor got out of that, he began the campaign for the second fight. On this one, he had a few weeks to think about what he wanted to write. And to give us a round-by-round, I don't know. I do look goes, and he has 29.1 million followers. I think for him, if 29 ate up what he said, it's a victory for him. And if there's 0.1 of a million, which is 100,000 of us hardcores, media and fans that are like, nah, checking him, he can live with that. But yeah, you know, one thing he said, I also gave my attacking grappling no respect. You know, Khabib could sit there from the other side and say, well, I gave his grappling no respect. Mm-hmm. Therefore, he was able to mitigate some of the damage from round 1. Maybe that's why round 1 doesn't look like round 2.
Slippery slope.
You're basically putting on these lenses and looking the fight through your eyes. And, you know, come on. There was a butt kicking that took place that night, and that was it. Usually Conor's on the other side of it. But on October 6th, it didn't go down that way. I just walk away feeling like there was just excuses. Not full of excuses, but there was just excuses. And the fair assessment, it gets lost. It shouldn't be that way.
The question is that a statement that he's trying to put out, or is that the foundation for the trash talk for fight number 2? Because when you hear those type of things over and over, you laid on top of me, you didn't do anything, it has effects on fighters. And maybe he's just trying to lay the foundation for fight number 2. You never know. That's
probably more than likely what it is. But it comes off as excuses for UFC 229, at least.
I'll go fair assessment. You're saying now? Full excuses?
Yeah.
What did Junkie Nation say?
53% sided with you. Fair assessment. 57%, excuse me. 43% sided with me with full of excuses.
It's close.
Yeah, it is pretty close. I do want to see them fight a second time. I just don't think it should immediately happen. I want to see Khabib versus Tony. And then I guess now that Poirier has fallen out of the Diaz fight, if he can't get back there soon, then we got to get Diaz back in the game. It's been over 2 years. His last fight was Conor McGregor 2. Get him and Conor to mix it up. That 55 division's fun, though, isn't it?
It is.
All right. There's no excuses with that one. So there you have it. There's today's Daily Debate, brought to you by George and Goes.